35. Takuda awoke to find an unfamiliar civilian waiting for him in the outer room of the bunker. The man was dressed in a long, dark gown, but was unadorned except for a 5-petaled lotus pendant hanging from a massive iron chain around his neck. The petals were of different colors: pale white, clear, turquoise, iridescent, and one that glowed softly in the dim light of the underground bunker. The man bowed and introduced himself.
I am Hushiko Miburi. I am a resident of Amatokaze. Some say us have learned of your presence and would like to hear what you have to say. We know what is happening on our small world, and there is much grief here. We seek to achieve a harmony that the current situation has disrupted. We want to see harmony re-established.
Takuda gestured the man onto one of the chairs in the headquarters. He had 3 of them now, a third having appeared unbidden in the same way as had the first 2. Takuda made a mental note to tell Pita that he had all the chairs he needed. Otherwise, they'd soon be so many he wouldn't have room to move in the small cavern. 2 cups of coffee, the last ones from the emergency packets, were served by the little alien. Takuda waved the tatate away and faced the visitor.
Uchiko Maburi, I appreciate that you have come such a great distance to see me. I too am interested in establishing harmony in this small portion of the world. I fear, however, that our ideas of harmony may differ. How may I help you? There have been many times of harmony in the history of the cities. Our beginnings were in great strife, and there was much death. Then that time passed, and we began to understand that to kill each other was to destroy everything. We declared an end to war. That time continued for many generations. The small cities were established. We grew and we prospered. Over the years, over the generations, over the centuries, we grew stronger and more secure. There were divisions among the clans, but mutual need kept those in check. There were always those who sought to destroy the harmony, but they were kept in their place. It is that attempt at harmony that you see when the Guntai face each other. Long ago we abandoned the terrible weapons of the past. Some survived, like those you see driven across the fields, but they are our champions. No group could totally subjugate the others. No one win a war, and so the battles continued. The forces of the designated cities would meet on the field. The champions would face each other. There would be battle. Honor would be served. Farmland, mines, forests would change hand, but the basic harmony between the 3 cities was not disturbed. Now the Usogumo have obtained weapons even more powerful than the ones we had in the far past. We once had knowledge of such weapons, but it has passed into the realm of legend. We know about them, but we no longer understand their use. And now people will die on the field. It will be more than the champions. There will be a violation of the harmony that held our small world in balance. This will be very bad. I come to you, sent by some of my friends, to see if harmony can be restored.
Takuda listened in silence as Hushiko Maburi explained the situation.
I understand the necessity of harmony, and I understand that the Usogumo have obtained a weapon system that will destroy the balance of power. But I do not understand how my intervention will restore that harmony, he said.
Maburi pressed his fingertips together over the untouched cup of coffee.
We have been led to believe that you possess weapons equal to or superior to those of the Usogumo. We know that you have been attacked, that you have won the battles. Perhaps you could use those weapons against those of the Usogumo to redress the balance. All harmony is balance, a balance between the good and evil that begets harmony. Those who travel too far to one side or the other, either for good or for ill, will upset the harmony of the situation. The forces of the Usogumo are now in the hands of those who could bring evil, even chaos. You have the power to tip the scales back toward the center. Would it not be better to end all of this?
Asked Takuda. He eyed the slowly cooling cup of coffee in the hands of his visitor. It was the last cup that would ever be available. If his guest didn't want it, he hoped to find a way to preserve it for some future time. His harmony would be terribly upset if the cup were taken away and the liquid discarded.
There is no reason, continued Takuda, why this divisiveness should continue. You can settle any dispute you have. You need not do it by force. Renounce your weapons. If there are those within your cities who need the excitement, the adventure that war provides, let them instead use that energy to explore and develop the land. There is so much land. When the conflicts have been settled, we can establish a formal society, as envisioned by our common ancestors. We can go back to the ideals of the great founder of House Kirita. We can return to the dream of Shiro Kirita. Then shall we know harmony.
Hushiko smiled at the naive gentleman who sat across the table.
We had problems before you arrived, Yubari Takuda, and we will have them after you and I are dead and gone. We had problems, and yet we had harmony. But there were our problems. It is you who have arrived to upset the harmony of our lives. It should be your responsibility to redress the situation. You can restore the system to what it was. You are obliged to do so. Take your forces and strike at those of the Usogumo. But there is a better way. We can move the situation into the future rather than the past. Why should you return to the bad times when good days can be ahead of us?
It is only you who see them as bad times. Few among us would agree. It is the future that appears as a time of trouble, and the future is something that you can set right. Takuda saw that he could say no more to the visitor from Amatukaze. Maburi did not see the possibilities. He bid the man farewell, then sat down to contemplate the situation. At least the coffee was still there. Cold, but still there. Takuda sipped slowly at the dark brew, savoring the taste even more because it was the last. There had to be other people within the enclaves who could see a future not dominated by the past. Takuda would have to send out additional patrols to find them, and if they should seek him out, he would be easy to find. The Tatate were beginning to congregate in greater and greater numbers, the Dest members acquiring more and more followers among the aliens. Even Takuda, who tried to discourage them, had numerous Tatate following his wake, and still they kept coming. Takuda could not make the Tatate stop treating them as demigods, and most of his people had given up trying. The commander's concentration was broken when Pita came into the room to indicate that another person was waiting to see him. Pita had not learned many words in the language of the humans. Coffee, chair, and visitor were his big ones. Now he eyed the last of the coffee, wondering what he would serve to this next strange human who sought to speak with his leader. Takuda nodded assent, and Pita went to fetch the man. The visitor, announced by Pita as Toge Omori, stepped through the curtain and examined the room and its contents. His face was impassive, but his eyes showed clearly that he didn't approve of the Spartan furnishings. This was a man who was used to being in charge, used to be taken care of. He waited expectantly. Takuda was too tired to go through the ritual. He gestured the man to a chair. When Omori didn't move, Takuda fixed him with his eyes.
You may sit or stand as you wish, Toge Omori. No one in this headquarters will stand for you. In here, I am in charge, and I do not have the time or the energy to cater to you.
Omori sneered at the remark, but when no one moved to present a chair, he sat down.
Yubari Takuda, I represent the Rentai of the Osio. It is not a regular official regiment. It is secret, and some of the best in the city are among its ranks. They are not especially pleased with the current situation, or the change your compatriots will bring. I have been authorized to approach you for your thoughts, and perhaps you would be so kind as to listen to ours. I know very little about your aims, Toge Omori. Perhaps you should speak first.
Very well. We in Osio believe that the best of all worlds is the model designed by our ancestors and reflected in the structure of the army. There is a natural order in life, with the strong at the top. We are that group. We will win. That has always been the way of things. The strong are not only strong in force, they are also strong in their ability to see what the future holds and to seize it. You are the future. We wish to have you join us. That is why we invite you to join the forces with the Osio against the others. We know that you have twice defeated the new weapons of the Usogomo. You are the more powerful. With your guidance, the Osio can benefit from the equally terrible weapons that you possess. We can become supreme and bend the others to our will. Toge Omori held up his hand to still the comment that was forming on the lips of the desk commander.
I understand that you wish to know how this would be of benefit to you and your people. It is quite simple. You and yours will become the leaders of the Rentai. You have the strength and the ability to use it. You should be our leader. This is quite interesting, said Takuda. But what happens if, as the leader, I decide that all weapons should be eliminated? What happens if I wish to see an older, more formal, more harmonious society evolve? What if I wanted to do away with the great weapons?
You can't. It is the only way we could dominate the others. We can rule the Sakai. With your weapons, we could strike out against the enemies of the Trudokrones Combine. We must remember how the legendary Shiro Kirita expanded the boundaries of our empire. We must be prepared for contact with the inner sphere. It will come. We must be acceptable to them. We must use force. Takuda stared through the man as though the chair were empty. This Toge Omori, like Maburi before him, did not understand what the future might bring. They were all too interested in making themselves the supreme rulers. And to what purpose? None. Domination. Force. Was there no other way? Perhaps the people of this planet had become so divisive because of the rebellion that had been tearing at the seams of the Draconis Combine when their ancestors had crashed on this unknown planet some 500 years ago.
Toge Omori, you have said many interesting things. I have heard other proposals from representatives of all three enclaves. I must withdraw to make my decision. You will please excuse me. Make sure you leave word of where and how we can contact you. Leave the information with Paka Davud, my aide. I will contact you with my decision.
I leave you to your deliberations, Yubari Takuda. I leave you for a while, but remember this. There are others who will also want to hear your decision. There are others who will not wait long. There are others who will demand action. Decide quickly.